I'm horror author Paul Edwards. Today I'm reading Famous Monsters of Filmland, issue 105 from 1973. I thought some of you might enjoy looking through this vintage horror magazine with me. Just in case you don't own your own copy of Famous Monsters of Filmland, issue 105 from 1973. Together, let's see what kinds of vintage monster goodness is in here. Famous Monsters of Filmland, issue 105 from 1973, and the price, which used to be 35 cents when the magazine started, is now $1. We've been attacked by the greatest monster of them all, inflation. Christopher Lee's portrayal of Count Dracula is on the cover. That's an excellent painting by Basil Gogos, who painted nearly 50 of these Famous Monsters of Filmland covers. All right, let's get right into it. Oh, there's an ad for the new upcoming comic, Will Eisner's The Spirit, which, spoiler alert, became a huge hit. Fang Mail, where kids would write in to get their pictures published along with their letters. All right, so let's see what we're getting in this issue. This magazine was pretty good about marking the passage of actors who had recently died, who had been significant in horror films. The first Fantasy Film Con. Oh boy. Christopher Lee, of course, played Dracula in a series of Hammer horror films, which were still going on when this magazine came out. But he also was in a lot of other films, both horror and non-horror. Here he is on TV in an episode of the TV show The Avengers, not the superheroes, the spy show The Avengers. Oh, Christopher Lee, you were off the rails. You know, Christopher Lee made a heavy metal album. Sounds like a joke? It's not a joke. Look it up. It's true. Yeah, did you know that Christopher Lee played Sherlock Holmes? An article on the great makeup and effects master, Rick Baker. Another FM fan on his way to stardom. That's Rick Baker in his own makeup. Chaney quality makeup. That's referring to Lon Chaney Sr. Michael Dunn is probably most remembered to genre fans now as having played Dr. Loveless in the TV series Wild Wild West, which, despite the name, was a science fiction fantasy action show that just happened to be set in the Old West. And he was a recurring villain. I think he came back and played Dr. Lovelace 8 times, if I remember right. He was great. And, of course, the death of Lon Chaney Jr. Yep. Sadly, Lon Chaney Jr.'s last film was Dracula versus Frankenstein, in which he had a very thankless part as a mute henchman of the mad scientist. It was a very sad way to end his movie career, considering how many great films he was in. Yep. There he is as Lenny in Of Mice and Men. And here he is again as the Wolfman in the greatest horror comedy movie ever made, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. This is where the famous comedy team, Abbott and Costello, who had already made at least 20 movies by this point, probably more than 20 movies, they did a send-up of the Universal monsters with Dracula, the Frankenstein monster, and the Wolfman all in it. Yep, I can't say enough good things about Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. If you've never seen it, you definitely ought to catch it. They got Bela Lugosi back after 17 years since he had last played Dracula. They got him back to play Dracula in this film. They had the then current Frankenstein, Glenn Strange, and they had the only actor who ever played the Wolfman in the golden age of Hollywood, Lon Chaney Jr. So, Boris Karloff played the Frankenstein monster in 3 films: Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and Ghost of Frankenstein. Glenn Strange also played the Frankenstein monster in 3 films: House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and this one, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. So he played Frankenstein just as many times as Boris Karloff did. I'm not comparing for a minute their skills as actors. Karloff, of course, was the consummate actor. But the look of Glenn Strange in the Frankenstein monster makeup is the image that was used to merchandise a whole lot of monster products, toys, posters, and things in the 1960s especially. And so Glenn Strange's look as the Frankenstein monster is, in a way, the look that's most familiar in the public consciousness now, even though, you know, his performance can't compare to Karloff's, where the monster had a much deeper role than in the Glenn Strange movies, where he was basically just a lumbering brute. So, Lou Costello was absolutely against the whole project, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. He thought it was a stupid idea. And I think history has proven him wrong. But when they were making publicity pictures for the movie, Lou Costello refused to play along. He would just basically stand there. Like here you can see, there's Glenn Strange as the Frankenstein monster. Bud Abbott is playing along. Lou Costello's just like, yeah, here I am, take my picture. Because he was just against the whole thing. Now, here's a great example of that. Okay, you've got the current Frankenstein and Wolfman actors and the classic Dracula actor all to come and appear in your movie, and this is the face you make when you're trying to look scared? Yeah, This was his way of protesting the whole project. My favorite scene in this movie is in the Wax Museum when Bud and Lou are delivering the monster exhibits, and they keep coming to life, and you know, every time that Costello looks, the coffin is opening, and then every time that Abbott comes to see, you know, everything is normal again. Meanwhile, the text of all this is running through the entire story. So if you've never seen the film or want to relive it, you can read right along with it. This picture looks weird because it's actually this way. The mouth that roared. Readers could write letters in and ask for pictures of their favorite movie scenes or favorite horror actors, and they would print them here, and you axed for it each month. Yikes. This makes... One Halloween, I went as the Werewolf of London, and it didn't come out as planned, and it came out pretty much looking like that. Karloff in The Invisible Ray. It's one of the films that he co-starred with Bela Lugosi in. Cry of the Banshee, Vincent Price film about a witch hunter who crosses paths with the real thing. Before the big movie series, Pirates of the Caribbean was this set of models. Kong and Son. Ooh, the Batmobile. Do you dare buy this mystery package? No. So here's this month's mystery picture. And here's the answer to what last month's mystery picture was, which is, of course, is the monster from Destination Inner Space. But if you didn't get it, they're telling you now. And now can you guess what movie this is from? Hundreds of inside tips for your monster makeup. Wow. The Lone Stranger. So Glenn Strange, who I talked about a few minutes ago, had recently passed away, and they were commemorating him here. In addition to the Frankenstein monster, he also played the werewolf in The Mad Monster, starring George Zucco. This is him in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. I love this bit where Dracula uses his mystical ring and zaps Frankenstein's monster on the electrodes to jolt him to full power. There he is getting the monster treatment from Jack Pierce. A close-up of when he was Petro in The Mad Monster. You can send away and get monster masks and monster hands and feet. And you can really dress up as a monster around the house. Remember when Tom Hanks said that Jason and the Argonauts was the greatest movie ever made? He wasn't the only one that thought that way. Ooh, model kits. Frankenstein, Dracula, Phantom, the forgotten prisoner of Castlemere, Mummy, Werewolf, the Gill Man, Jekyll and Hyde, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Godzilla, I have this Godzilla, the Old Witch, and the King Kong. A couple of you have commented in other videos that you had the King Kong model. That looks like it would have been a good one to have. Then finally, when you would watch so many horror movies that your eyes started to hurt and you couldn't watch anymore, you could resort to listening to horror stories on vinyl albums. Give your eyes a rest and still be scared. Yeah, some of these are old radio shows, like Suspense was a very popular thriller radio show. Here's one vinyl album of The Shadow, just various episodes of The Shadow. And then here's one, Orson Welles as The Shadow. In other words, the good ones. They practically are saying, these are the ones you really want. Orson Welles did the first 1 or 2 seasons of The Shadow, and then the role went on to a series of other actors in succession. May as well load up on comics while you're here. So in the 1950s, there had been horror comics like Tales from the Crypt. In the 1960s, they had disappeared. Now, in the 1970s, reprints of those old horror comics were being sold and were very successful. Star Trek stuff. Star Trek was more popular in reruns in the 70s than it had been actually on TV in the 60s. So here, 1973, this would have been a big attraction. Get your dinosaur models. Well, dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures. nice. Does anyone else remember the Phantom in the comics? Not Phantom of the Opera, the Phantom. I haven't thought about the Phantom in a long time. I wonder what ever happened with that. Oh boy, books on horror and sci-fi films. Yeah, well, buckle up because there's going to be a lot of those to come. Back issues of Eerie, which was also a Warren publication. And same with Vampirella. More masks. Poster sale. That's pretty good. My bedroom was wall-to-wall posters when I was a kid. All right, so what should we order? There's plenty of room for lots of orders here. And this is a continuation of the ad for the Spirit that was on the inside front cover. Our horrific holiday issue. Oh, I don't want to miss that. If you enjoy classic monsters and vintage horror, check out my book series, the Mourner's Woods books. I'm self-published on Amazon, and I've written a series of novels that take place in a haunted forest, Mourner's Woods. Each book has a completely new cast of characters enter into Mourner's Woods, where they encounter ghosts, monsters, and other assorted fiends. My books recapture the feel and vibe of 20th century horror movies, but in printed form, of course, and in a contemporary setting. My books, again, are the Mourner's Woods books. My name is Paul Edwards. Thanks for checking out this issue of Famous Monsters of Filmland from 1973 with me. I'll see you in Mourner's Woods.